I switched to advanced camera just for the heck of it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go fly out there. I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna go explore that horizon. See how big this ocean really is, and, you know, maybe see those rings a little better. Yeah, I didn't make it very... maybe you could do something. I doubt it, but maybe. The PDSs are not... they're very weak, yes, but they are snappy in nanoseconds. And here comes the torpedo. Just literally, it was either 1 or 2 torpedoes, and I'm slamming H and J. I'm bam, 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 H and J, H and J. Shut up for a second just to show you what you're hearing. Those are large countermeasures being deployed, one after another, after another, after another, after another. They didn't do shit. Taking evasive action, changing maneuvers. I thought going closer to them. Maybe I could make the minimum range so the torpedo wouldn't be able to make contact. Along with H and J'ing. Even as I'm dying, I'm firing more H and J's. And you know what? It didn't do shit. Carracks are right now gonna be fodder in 4.0 for the thing. So I did the sensible thing, and I went on multiple more adventures with something called an 890 jump. And you know what? That stupid giant ship is one of the best ways to explore Pyro, unless you want to just run around in a Polaris. Unless you want to run around in a capital combat ship and all the maintenance and all the nonsense and all the attention that brings. Well, right now it might be wolf and pile of wolves. Everybody's running around a Polaris, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But unless you want to run around in a Polaris, this is your other option. Because this thing has better PDCs than the Polaris. So much so, they don't even attack me anymore in this thing. You know, I rarely ever mention content creators at all. But I had to kind of make a counterbalance to the argument that the Carrack is the perfect ship for Pyro and 4.0. Because I feel that not just this content creator, but others that have been hyping the Carrack lately are basically kind of not giving you the full story, or they're not spending time in the 4.0 ePTU post it becoming part of Wave 1. For those who don't know, when the ePTU is still in Evo, for the weeks and weeks and weeks that content creators were in Evo and they were flying around, there is no non-consensual PvP allowed. If you even conduct such a thing, you will be thrown out of Evo. So it doesn't happen. It just does not happen. And the tight-knit group there, basically, they police themselves, essentially. They will report you in a heartbeat for causing any trouble. Pyro is a lawless hellscape now, because it's meant to be. It's designed to be. It's encouraged, in fact. It's in the advertising directly of what Pyro is, and it's in the fabric of a pirated system and all this stuff. But the thing is, the Carrack is not ready for that scenario. The new world that is Pyro is not beautiful places to land and explore unless you have PDS turrets that will defend you. And even when you're landed, people can still dumbfire size 10s and size 9s at you. And size 10s in particular will one hit a Carrack or other ship of that size, or two hit a ship of a capital size. It is semantics anyway, because people will often throw a volley of 4 torps at you just for the heck of it. I showed you a clip at the beginning of this video of my first journey out in a Carrack in 4.0 ePTU Wave 1. And then I wised up and I broke out my 890 again and said, oh yeah, that's why I fly this thing around. I am still, to this moment I'm recording this, have not lost an 890 in 4.0 ePTU. Heck, I haven't lost an 890 in ages. And in general, I guess you could say. And especially in Pyro, I haven't lost anything bigger than a Carrack, and specifically a Carrack. And the reason why is because anyone can just flip a size 10 torp at you. And if they're in any reasonable range, and the Polaris is not slow, it is not some speed racer, but it's quick enough where it can quietly get close enough where it can just chuck one torp. you're dead in this thing. Your noise and decoys, your chaff and flares, as people, if you're not quite familiar with what they are, your H and J's, they don't do anything. You can slam them to your heart's content, and at least in the current configuration, there is so much guidance in those size 10s, they don't get tricked. You can spin, you can do maneuvers. The one thing I've heard people suggest is that you can swap over to your quantum mode and then run for your life, essentially, and hope that somebody isn't on that size 6 cannon on the front of that Polaris, because you just dropped your shields. I don't think this ship is ready for Pyro. It should have been. And and the feedback for the changes for the blast shield and for the cargo base that now are open, and that is a welcome thing. I'm glad to see the Carrack finally getting some of its modules working. For those who aren't aware, the Carrack is modular, and the cargo modules are the ones that are in the base right now of the ship. So it's just like the Tally bomber or some other type of modularized ship, where a Cat, for example, is another one, where it has a specific set of modules, and they're cargo modules. I believe that what CIG should do is, if they refuse to give this ship 2 PDSs, or at least one, like the Phoenix, for goodness sake, allow it to have one of those lower bays sacrificed for a pair of PDSs, one on the left, one on the right of the ship, sticking out of the cargo bay, and then just give the other 2 cargo bays slightly more storage temporarily until modularization finally gets in properly. I think that would make sense, because then all of a sudden my problems with the Carrack are gone. This video that you see here that I have, just I'm talking over the image of what it is, mainly because I'm kind of nervous about using someone else's video and going over it and whatever. I'm not quite sure about what the rules of that are. I don't do response, reaction, any of that kind of stuff usually. And furthermore, especially for a fellow content creator, not official content from CIG. And furthermore, the other thing is, none of the things on there I disagree with about the actual style, about the lore, about the blast shields, and about the new cargo pod changes. And I do agree with their takes on a lot of things about that ship finally getting its touches. But none of it matters if your sales pitch is it's working for Pyro and it's ready for 4.0, and this is the ship you want to be rolling around Pyro in. See, that's my problem from the ground up. I'm saying that none of this matters if the ship can't do anything. Your blast shields will not save you from those size 10 torps. Nothing on this ship will save you from those size 10 torps, unless maybe if you have the ship fully crewed with all the turrets operational with players, maybe you could pop the torps on the way in, but you miss one, you're dead. And the thing is, there's a lot of Polarises rolling around. It's the brand new hot ship. Everybody's rolling around in it. So you either get a Polaris or you get an 890, and then you roll around in that, and you stay alive. And the thing is, even the 890 can't kill a Polaris, obviously. But for some strange reason, the stars have aligned that 890, if you don't want a Polaris and you have access to an 890, for example, you bought the 890 jumping game is a good example of that. But when 4.0 Live hits with the wipe, I don't know how that's going to work. You're going to have to earn it all over again, unless they let you keep the ship. And it does transfer over, hopefully. So my point is that before you purchase the Carrack, if you're looking hard at this because of content like this, or CCUing to a Carrack, carefully consider your options and know it is not a good idea to roll around in its current configuration, rolling around Pyro in it. I'm sorry, there's no good options other than the Polaris, and the Polaris just went up ridiculously in price. Maybe the War Bond will come back later on for CCUs. I'm not sure if that'll be at the finale of the event. Probably will be. That's just me speculating. But and I can't recommend an 890 jump, for goodness sake. That is an extravagance. Unless you can buy it in game and roll around and have some fun with it. and hopefully it survives the wipe. I don't have any other good options other than getting much smaller in your vehicle, in your ships, and staying quick, because you can then outrun the torpedoes, guaranteed, and constantly be somewhere else. But I think that also hard limits you in what you can and cannot do content-wise, what you can carry, what contracts you can take, what services you can offer you and your friends. Multi-crew ships are kind of in the same problem. So this video, I'm only directly aiming this at the Carrack because I've noticed this amongst other videos that have less views and less attraction, suddenly popping up, talking about how great the Carrack is. And I feel that it's going to be one of the hot tickets tomorrow. And the rumored ship that is highly teased by CIG is going to kind of be another ship that people are going to think about. But people will turn to the ideas of Pyro and think about, what can I use to explore to my heart's content Pyro, and go and explore the entire huge system it is, and has long range. What can I bring a few friends along in? What can I store a bunch of cool stuff we find and trinkets, and has room for all sorts of different types of contracts and events and gameplay loops. And yes, if the Carrack could not be just Polaris fodder, it would be the ship for this. Now, CIG could go another route. They could make the size 10 torps even more expensive. But I am personally seeing on 3.24.3 live that basically there's only so much they can cost. And an entire load is only a few $100K. So that's the problem, is if only one or two can bring this ship to its knees, and 3.24.3 prices, it's not going to be enough. And I don't think people want to hear that suddenly 2 or 4 of the size 10 torps is suddenly $1 million UEC or some crazy number like that. And even then, you may have griefers that will literally just buy them for the sake of the clips of showing them killing random Carracks and other expensive big ships, just one-offing, hit, ha ha ha, look how funny this was, fly to the next ship, boom, ha ha ha, look how funny this was, because there is no consequences. I mean, if another Polaris shows up, they just run away. They do have the defenses defend off the with their PDS systems to defend off the torpedoes of a counterstrike. We don't have Idrises yet that can just size 10 punch holes and stuff. We don't have those yet. We don't have javelins or any kind of crazy other ships that have ship-to-ship weaponry that is that you can't destroy in the process. I'm not talking about the javelins torps. I'm talking about the javelins giant cannons, and many of them that could just come in, kill a Polaris, and run and knock it off. You know, you would need a concentrated effort of ships. And then if I was the Polaris griefing, I would just leave. You know. Log off and in a safe spot between 2 locations, dropping out of quantum, and then I would go to another server and just do it all over again. If I even got a whiff of resistance, if you started seeing a pile of Ares Infernos trying to hunt you or something, I don't know. I think that's the only other option I can think of, is just groups of people pushing off the griefers. Hopefully when 4.0 live hits, there will be enough expensive repair bills, because it is millions of UEC to repair the Polaris, at least in the current prices, and I hope that continues. When it gets actual damage, we've seen that with the Idris NPC fights, that they get some considerable damage. That's kind of where I'm at. I know this is not the greatest video. It's not. It's something, though, that I felt was important, and I wanted to get off my chest. And I just don't like people making expensive decisions or serious consequence decisions, like playing the CCU game and then locking themselves out of a whole bunch of options based on information that's promising them that the brand new system with all its content will be unlockable with blank. Like, it's like, oh, if I get the Carrack, I will be able to do blank. Or, oh, if I keep the Carrack and not CCU to something else, while I have this opportunity for just the next few days, this golden time where I can get any CCU in the finale and be ready for Pyro, now's the time to make those decisions. I don't like people hard locking into the Carrack, not knowing that it may or may not ever get PDS turrets. CIG has not responded back to my comment about that. I don't know if they ever will bother to even notice, that there is an issue with the Carrack, or that it's an intentional in that it's designed, that it's just outdated now. That in a lawless system like Pyro, where Polarises can run around, they can just insta-pop ships of this class, and without it. One of the funny things is the Liberator was given 2 PDSs, so it couldn't be sucker punched by torpedoes. And it's not that it's impossible to defeat. That's why I keep saying two PDS turrets. It's because that is just enough to make somebody maybe think twice, and maybe give you just enough time to get away. Not actually attack them, but at least have a chance of getting away and being able to sustain, and making them really have to earn that kill, which is something else that I'm very frustrated with. There is this push for time to destroy being changed to time to disable. And the thing is that insta-popping a massive ship like the Carrack should not be a thing ever, really, in my opinion. Especially considering the Carrack is not truly a massively offensive ship. Like, if it was a glass cannon like the Ares Inferno, where it's high risk, high reward, I understand. You're dragging out a size 7 ballistic, and you're on this tiny little ship. If it pops, right? But when you're talking about a multi-crew vessel that doesn't have massive weaponry, it's more designed for logistics and gameplay loops that involve non-combat. I really, really show concern of why do we insist on allowing the Polaris just to chuck a torp and it's dead? It's just within seconds. I don't see this as a clean solution. All right, that's what I got. Thank you to my long-term subscribers for putting up with me. Take care, everyone. Happy IE.